Ahoy there traders, and welcome back. On this short video we're going to look at what's hot to trade today. So with that said, let's take a look at the charts. So as always, I'm looking for opportunities inside of my stock list. So what you just saw me do there was I quickly sorted all the stocks that meet a very simple requirement of does it have a sign of exhaustion, and what it's doing is it's referencing the daily chart in the background so that anything with a sign of exhaustion over on the daily chart, so we've got the daily up here and this is the weekly for reference, but anything with a sign of exhaustion is essentially what I'm looking for. Now when I went through this quite literally earlier today, we can see that there is a large list of stocks. There are, on this segment, there is around 85 stocks, and on this segment we can see we've got a further 10 or 15. But we've got a large list of potential charts to look at. Now I did look at each and every one of those, but that's just the way it is. So I did look at each and every one of them. Now what I ended up with was a short list. So on top of the list, so these are just new for today essentially, but on top of that I ended up with all of these stocks that may be potential candidates. Again, looking at Grubhub, for example, we can see that we've got, again, in a downtrend, we're rallying a downtrend. You know, that's essentially what we've got here with the stocks. That's what we're looking for, that type of chart. So what I end up with is, again, a large list of stocks that have signs of exhaustion essentially on the daily chart in the background. So how do we filter that list? Because to be quite frank, all of these stocks for me, with the way that I view them, they're all hell yes trades. I'd like to get me some of that, please, because I really want to trade a lot of these stocks, and that in itself can be a problem. So the problem that I have is not what to trade, because I've got lots of what to trade. And I've got about 100 stocks that I could quite legitimately put a trade on when the market's next open. And as I'm going through these are all stocks that I really, really like. They've all got signs of exhaustion. They're rallies in a short-term downtrend in the current environment. And I've got to think to myself, you know what, these look great. But if I was to put my at the very least, there's about 50 stocks that I would be really interested in putting a trade on right now if I could. So if I was to put my usual 1% on, then I've obviously got 50% of my account equity is going to be in use, and that would be all on the bearish side. And if it worked out, you've got to think to yourself, well, that might be a great payday. You know, if you're using 50%, I'm looking for at least 2 to 1 on the option returns. You know, it could be a good payday. It might be more, might be less, but that's what I'm looking for if everything paid out. And the reality is it's never going to work out perfectly. Yeah. And the other thing is if I'm wrong, I'm going to ditch 50% of my account on a stupid bet. So what I opted to do was to, okay, well, if I've got so many stocks, I also looked at the weekly set, because as I'm doing this, the markets are closed, the weekly charts are setting up quite nicely, and I'm looking to see which stocks have that sign of exhaustion, but on the weekly chart. So what I have done is done just that. I've looked at the stocks that have a sign of exhaustion. I'm just looking at this little chart at the bottom left here. So I'm looking at this little chart, and they're essentially the weekly charts, and they're looking for those signs of exhaustion to give me an indication. So as I'm looking at the weeklies, you can see that we've got a consolidation, we've got a breakdown and out, prices retraced, and we've got a sign of exhaustion at the low end of the consolidation. So I've also got that on the daily, and again looking left we can see that consolidation, and maybe if it breaks through again approximately 130, we're going to see that retest of the recent lows that we've been talking about for the last several weeks. So that could be interesting. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to filter a huge list of potential candidates with, you know, can I see the same setup on the weeklies out of that list, and it provides me with a lot of potential opportunities which look really, really attractive. So that's where I'm at. That's how I've taken a large list of potential candidates into a small list of potential candidates. I've still got about 10 or 15 stocks that I like the look of, but ultimately I'm looking for that dual time frame lineup, sign of exhaustion on the daily and the sign of exhaustion on the weekly, to try and help me figure out, should I trade this at the opening bell next week? That's what I'm looking for, and that's how I've taken that list of 100 or more stocks into a list, a more manageable bite-sized list of around, what have we got? Around about 20 stocks. So a little bit more manageable compared to the full list of candidates. Doesn't mean that they're going to be any better or any worse, but it just means that the weekly chart is setting up as well as the daily charts, which is ultimately what I'm trying to figure out. So that's what this list is. Again, good example, INTC. We can see the signs of exhaustion. We've got that break back into the consolidation on Intel. Again, it looked great on the weeklies. So that's what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm trying to figure out. That's how I'm taking a huge list of opportunities down to something that is a little bit more bite-sized. Hopefully that helps. I'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.